way back when I was 20 years old or so. I took a list of 1 to 100 of what I wanted to do in life. At the bottom of the list was performer, singer. I was too afraid to get on stage, I swear to God. On the top was mathematician, physicist, this, that. The bottom, I swear, the number 100 was performer on stage. And look what I've done all my life.
In 1938, Brooklyn, New York, Boruch Alan Bermovich was born. He is best known as Alan Vega, the vocalist for the band Suicide. The duo was Alan Vega on vocals and Martin Rev on synthesizers. At a time when everyone was still using guitar, bass and drums, Suicide opted for synthesizers and drum machines. This decision set them apart from their punk contemporaries. At the start, their sound was dictated by their lack of money, with most of Martin Rev's synth arrangements being made on cheap Japanese keyboards. Unhappy with its tone, they decided to use multiple effects pedals to make dense and eerie layers of sound. They performed their first New York loft show in 1970 and gradually became an underground favourite.
Well, for a long time, I would say all the way through those few years, early 70s, you didn't know, all the groups were kind of, the ones that already started, kind of in their own environments, practicing in their own spots. So nobody really knew each other. I think at that time the Dolls were around rehearsing. Ramones, maybe, probably, but maybe not yet. Television seemed to be, but nobody knew each other. And we certainly thought we were definitely in our own world, because, it's just from also what we did.
They always started riots at their shows, so their reputation made it increasingly hard to tour. Vega always had a problem with any kind of fame they achieved. Their style was too esoteric, and they had no interest in being involved in the drug culture like their contemporaries. Suicide were always happy to be seen as separate from the New York scene. As their popularity started to grow, they were booked on a tour with The Clash. They quickly realised this was a bad decision, as their fan bases were so different, and Alan Vega described it as hell.
We had 15,000 people booing us when we opened for the Cars at 2 civic centers. They had never heard of Suicide either, and certainly Cars fans did not come to see Suicide. But 15,000 people booing at one time, that's an incredible sound.
Suicide often felt they were misunderstood by audiences. While on tour in Edinburgh, Vega looked out at the crowd expecting to see a rowdy punk audience and was shocked to see a room full of people dancing. He looked up and saw lights and a spinning disco ball and thought to himself that his career was over. Their self-titled debut album came out in 1977. It was filled with sounds that today's music journalists would describe as both pre- and post-punk. The sounds on this album further set them apart from the New York scene. Also setting them apart was the age gap between the young punks and Suicide, with Alan Vega being 39 years old at the time of release. It wasn't until the 1990s that Suicide began being mentioned on best of lists, recognised as being both experimental and bold in their direction. In a surprising turn, Alan Vega's solo work was far more conventionally popular and was very well received in Europe, with songs like Jukebox Babe and Speedway being minor hits.
Came from nowhere to St. Francis Street, Oh, jukebox baby, playing a doobie, Oh, the Cadillac came, watching for the heel, Oh, jukebox baby, jukebox baby.
A huge number of artists have cited Alan Vega's work with Suicide and Alone as being very influential. Synth pop bands like Depeche Mode embraced the cold and sparse electronic landscapes that Suicide pioneered. Suicide's icy and abrasive synth tones can be heard in industrial acts like Ministry and 9 Inch Nails. Bands like Primal Scream, Klaxons and The Horrors all released covers of Suicide or Alan Vega's work as an ode to him for his 70th birthday in 2008. This came as a surprise to many, as he was widely thought to be 10 years younger. Suicide's music even resonated with artists who didn't seek to replicate their sound. For example, Bruce Springsteen often ends his sets with a cover of Dream Baby Dream.
I always said that about rock and roll. When I think Robert Christgau killed it. He wrote for the Village Voice in New York. He gave A, B, C, like in school, like grades for the music. I go, what the fuck are you doing? How could you give a grade to a song? And people believed in that shit. Oh, that song's a G, forget about it. Oh, that's an A. And it'd be the worst shit in the world would get A's, and the best shit in the world would get D's and F's. Suicide was off the map. It didn't even require a letter. We hate this shit.
It's one of those, weird time and place things that I have this weird ability to hit now and then. The last time Suicide played was in London last year, and the last time Alan did Ghost Rider, I was there, and I sang it with him.
Wow.
And that was that. And then that was the last show they did. The last time Alan was on stage was the Barbican in London, and I was with him. Alan was an amazing guy, and an artist till the end. He just finished 6 new canvases, 6 new paintings right before he got too ill to work.
We lived a rock and roll life.
Alan Vega died peacefully in his sleep, aged 78. His influence and legacy can still be heard in music today.